Hey man, ignoring a woman isn't about playing games, it's about reclaiming your power. Because the second you pull your attention away, the second you stop feeding her validation, the second you go silent, she feels it more deeply than anything you could ever say. You have to understand this. Attention is oxygen to women. It fuels their sense of self-worth, their confidence, their emotional stability. When you give her constant attention, even after she's disrespected you or pulled away, you teach her that your energy is free. But when you ignore her, when you pull back completely, it's like cutting off her air supply. And that's when she starts to feel everything she's been avoiding, her guilt, her loss, her fear, her emptiness. See, most men think ignoring a woman is an act of indifference. It's not. It's an act of emotional dominance. When you stop reacting to her, you take away her control over your emotions. You shift the dynamic. Suddenly she's no longer the one deciding when you talk, when you connect, or how you feel. You are. And that silence hits her harder than any words ever could. Because deep down, she expected you to chase, to prove, to beg. But when you don't, when you simply vanish into composure, it disrupts her entire sense of power. It makes her question everything she believed about your feelings, your attachment, and your strength. Ignoring her works, because women crave attention more than closure. When you engage, when you argue, when you explain, you give her attention. Even anger feeds her ego, because it proves she still has emotional access to you. But silence? Silence is starvation. Silence is the emotional vacuum where her mind starts to spiral. She replays everything you said, everything you did, everything she did to push you away. And that's the beauty of ignoring her. You don't have to punish her, because her own mind will do it for you. In the beginning, she won't feel it. At first, she'll act unbothered. She'll post more, laugh louder, flirt harder, all to prove that your silence means nothing. But those are just defense mechanisms. The more she pretends not to care, the more she's fighting what's really happening inside. Because ignoring her doesn't just affect her pride, it touches her emotions at their root. And the longer you stay silent, the more that mask begins to crack. What starts as indifference eventually turns into confusion, then irritation, and finally, emotional collapse. Ignoring her triggers something powerful in her psychology: uncertainty. See, women are emotional detectives. They read energy, tone, patterns. They know when a man is obsessed and when he's detached. And when that shift happens, when your energy suddenly changes from available to distant, it haunts her because she's used to being the center of your world. She's used to knowing where she stands with you. But when you ignore her, she no longer knows. That uncertainty breeds anxiety, and anxiety is the birthplace of desire. You'll know it's working when she starts to test you. She'll post things online designed to provoke you. She'll drop subtle hints, maybe even send a hey text just to check if she still has access. But that's not love, that's ego panic. The moment you respond, you reset her comfort. The moment you stay silent, you deepen her craving. Ignoring her works, because it shifts her from feeling like she's the prize to realizing she's the one chasing validation. That's when the tables turn. That's when she starts to feel what you once felt: doubt, confusion, longing, and powerlessness. The irony is, women will act like your silence doesn't bother them, but internally, it burns them alive. Because women attach through attention. Even negative attention maintains their connection to you. That's why she argues, provokes, tests, not because she hates you, but because she needs that emotional contact. When you remove it, she's left alone with her thoughts, and those thoughts can be brutal. Every silence becomes a mirror, reflecting her own behavior, her mistakes, her arrogance, and the realization that she lost control. Ignoring her also forces polarity back into the dynamic. Masculine energy is stillness, feminine energy is motion. When you're still, when you don't chase, don't react, don't fold, her energy starts moving toward you. That's how attraction is restored. She'll begin to wonder what you're thinking, who you're with, what you're feeling. Her curiosity becomes her obsession, and her obsession becomes her punishment. Because the more she tries to figure you out, the deeper she falls into the trap of her own emotions. The beauty of ignoring her is that it gives you your power back. You stop living through her reaction and start living through your discipline. Every time you resist the urge to reply, you grow stronger. Every time you let her sit in her silence, you remind her that your attention is earned, not owed. And that shift is magnetic. Because women don't fall in love with men they control. They fall in love with men they can't fully figure out. And nothing makes you more mysterious than disappearing when she expects you to chase. Ignoring her also exposes her true feelings. Words can lie, actions can manipulate, but silence reveals truth. If she didn't care, your absence wouldn't bother her. But if she starts checking on you, getting emotional, trying to bait you into responding, that's proof she feels the loss. And that's the irony of ignoring her. You're not being cruel. You're simply allowing her to face her own emotions without rescuing her from them. That's what creates growth for both of you. When you ignore her, her mind starts to replay the entire relationship. Every memory, every argument, every good moment. She starts over-analyzing it all. She'll convince herself she misread things, that maybe you were never as invested as she thought, that maybe she pushed too hard, and that's where regret begins. Ignoring her forces her to reflect, and reflection is what women avoid most. They'll do anything to distract themselves, until silence forces them to sit in the truth of what they lost. Ignoring her also makes her feel something she never expected: respect. See, she might not like it, but deep down, she respects a man who doesn't collapse for her, because restraint is power, and women are instinctively drawn to power. Every man can talk, every man can chase, but very few can disappear with composure. That composure is what separates you from every other man she's dealt with, and that realization plants the seed of attraction all over again, but this time on your terms. Most men fear silence because they think it means losing her. But silence is the only way to make her truly feel your absence. You can't talk a woman into missing you. She has to feel it, and the only way she feels it is through the void you create. When you ignore her, you stop being predictable. You stop being emotionally available on command. You stop being her emotional backup plan. That unpredictability forces her to chase what she once took for granted: your presence. Ignoring her doesn't mean being cold or hateful. It means choosing peace over chaos, self-respect over validation. It means realizing that your worth isn't measured by how much you can prove your love to someone who stopped valuing it. When you ignore her, you send the message that your time, your attention, your energy, they're all sacred, and if she can't appreciate them, she doesn't deserve them. That message doesn't need words, it needs silence. Here's the thing. When you ignore her, she starts imagining everything. She imagines you moving on. She imagines you laughing with someone else. She imagines another woman receiving the love she threw away, and that imagination destroys her. Because in her mind, she always believed she had time. She always believed she could come back. But your silence creates the illusion that she lost you forever, and the fear of that loss is what drives her to crave you again. Ignoring her also flips the emotional burden. Before, you were the one overthinking. You were the one checking your phone, waiting, wondering, worrying. Now she's the one doing it. She's checking, she's waiting, she's wondering. That role reversal is what creates the emotional awakening. Because now she finally feels the uncertainty she once made you live with. That's justice. Not revenge, not cruelty, just balance. Over time, ignoring her becomes a mirror that reflects her choices. She'll start to see how she pushed away a man who actually cared, a man who showed patience, a man who gave effort. And when she realizes she can't get that version of you back, that's when missing you turns into regret. Regret is a heavy emotion. It lingers. It doesn't fade quickly. It stays in her chest every time she thinks of you, because she knows she caused it. Ignoring her also heals you, because it forces you to detach. You stop chasing closure and start creating peace. You stop needing validation and start valuing solitude. You stop reacting to her moods and start mastering your own. And once you master silence, you'll realize something powerful. Indifference is louder than any argument, and peace is more attractive than any apology. When you ignore her long enough, the power dynamic shifts permanently. She starts to realize she no longer controls the rhythm. You do. And once she realizes that, her entire emotional strategy collapses. The games don't work, the drama doesn't move you, the silence doesn't scare you, because you've reached a level of detachment that's unshakable. And that's when she starts to chase, not for attention but for reconnection, because she knows now you're not the same man she walked away from. Ignoring her creates space for you to evolve. While she's obsessing, you're improving. While she's watching your silence, you're building your peace. That growth is what elevates you from the man she knew to the man she can never have again. And when she finally realizes she's been replaced not by another woman, but by your own peace, that's when she truly breaks. Because no woman can compete with a man's peace once he finds it. The man who ignores with purpose doesn't do it out of spite. He does it out of mastery. He knows that silence speaks louder than any emotional reaction. He knows that peace punishes deeper than anger. He knows that letting her feel the weight of losing him will teach her more than any lecture ever could. Because women don't learn from what you say, they learn from what they feel. And when you ignore her, she feels everything. Ignoring her also gives her the gift of consequence. Every disrespect, every manipulation, every moment she took your kindness for granted now echoes in her mind, because your silence forces accountability. It forces her to see herself through your absence. That's why the men who stay silent after being wronged always win, because they let the silence do the teaching. Eventually, she'll break. Maybe she won't say it out loud, but you'll see it in her actions. She'll try to reconnect. She'll test the waters. She'll look for any opening, any crack in your armor. And when she does, remember this. Ignoring her wasn't about punishment. It was about protection. Protecting your peace, your dignity, your energy. And once you reclaim those, never trade them back for temporary attention. Ignoring her is the final stage of emotional maturity. It's the moment you stop reacting and start responding to life with discipline. It's the moment you realize that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom, because not every woman deserves access to your energy, and not every situation deserves your reaction. The man who learns to ignore doesn't lose anything, he gains everything. So remember this, when you ignore her, she'll feel everything. The loss, the silence, the distance, the consequences. She'll feel the same emptiness she once made you feel, multiplied by her own imagination. But by then, you won't be doing it for her anymore. You'll be doing it for yourself. Because the man who can ignore chaos and stay grounded in peace is the man who becomes untouchable. And that's the moment she finally understands you didn't ignore her to hurt her. You ignored her because you finally learned to value yourself.